Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Scaling Station podcast, where we highlight how real estate and prop tech leaders are rethinking the way deals get done. I'm your host, Will Radosky, and today I'm joined by Matthew Schneider, founder and CEO of Building. Matthew, thanks for joining me today. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm in an active trade as this happens. And then I caught COVID on the way back from Miami. And that was 2 weeks of travel before that. It's going,
Wow.
but that's life. It's exciting for me.
September 25. I thought COVID was out of fashion, but no.
There's these wild strains that are still popping up. And so I got one. And this strain, they call it like a razor blade throat. It's pretty bad. I woke up and I was like, gee, this sucks. I had to change around all my meetings, but I'm feeling okay today. And that's good because we're going to be doing a lot of talking.
I love it. Well, thanks again for joining me. Maybe before we dive in, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience just a bit about yourself.
Sure thing. I've always been an entrepreneur. Since I got out of high school, I was making music. I had published a book and I started trading the market. I still trade the market. Sometimes it gets the better of me. But I started to make a transition into real estate. And this was a really good decision. I saw it as a blue ocean. It's a big market and it's a big industry. I've always had this fascination for building things. And it's the name of my company now, both as a noun and as a verb. I looked at our skylines, I looked at our cities. I saw there was a lot of room for improvement, taken stuff that I was already passionate about, technology being one, creative entrepreneurship and systems design. I started to blend everything together. That was around 2020, 2021. And one of those technologies was blockchain. And I started researching that. I made a name for myself in the blockchain industry or fintech vertical and started exploring all the different things that I could unlock. It's been a fantastic journey. The past 18 months in particular have really ramped up, not only for our company, but just life in general. I've been traveling all over the place, teaching people, exploring the world, and doing business development. So that was 5 years in 50 seconds.
That's amazing. I assume trading and being that tuned in with the markets has had to give you a pretty unique perspective on real estate. Just curious, what kind of drew you initially? Was it just the fact that they're tangible assets, or was it anything in particular?
To real estate,
Correct.
I like the physicality of it. So, as an investment, it stands the test of time. Generally speaking, it's also much more stable. You don't have all of this volatility that makes your hair fall out. Even right now, with an open trade next to me, it keeps me anxious. A lot of people park their money in real estate knowing that the building isn't going anywhere and it's probably insured. You're going to have professionals running it, making sure that it's always leased out and there's money coming in. It's such a sophisticated industry. So, market aside, if you look at all the moving parts, that's really exciting to me. The overall scale of this industry and how deep down the rabbit hole you can go is thrilling. I like an adventure, I like solving problems, and there's plenty of both here in real estate.
100%. Um, Wondering if there was an aha moment or any one thing that led you to start building.
So, my first startup 5 or so years ago was for syndicating real estate and bringing together investors into properties. It still used blockchain technology to tokenize the ownership, but I realized some problems with that model. It was innovative, but it was addressing the wrong problems. People don't have too much struggle when it comes to investing in real estate. There's already platforms out there, there's regulation. So I needed to pivot quite a bit. And this was 18 months ago. I said, well, I still want to be in tokenized real estate, but I need to be solving something that people are really going to pay for, not just a nicety, a hair on fire problem. And this led me into data and looking at real estate data because I believe that it's the new oil. Well, it's not just that I believe that. I think we've come to accept that as a truth that there's a lot of value in information. We can turn the tables and start to use it for our own monetization. So I dove into that and seeing, where can we extract data? How can it be used across the real estate lifecycle? For example, better design and construction, or financing and appraisal, capital markets, so liquidity concepts. how can I bring this all together? And if I'm identifying areas where we can boost the value of the property or save money, so top line, bottom line, people are going to pay for that. And that's a much easier business to run. I wanted to run a business, but to do that, you need something that people pay for. This was my niche, my foxhole that I got into, and it has been great for us because all of the feedback that we've gotten is that we are solving a big problem. And we have predicted where the industry and the market is going, particularly with digital assets. I'm glad to be building in this part of the market, it's part of the industry that I am. It's like striking gold. I saw an opportunity and I'm definitely doubling down on it because it's transformative.
That's awesome. I think when people hear tokenization, they might think of crypto or hype. Has it been difficult to convey that or frame it in a way that resonates with real estate investors, operators?
For sure. First, I have to let them know that blockchain technology is just technology. It's a digital ledger that can't be modified. And once you start describing it like that, it becomes very boring. And you quickly disassociate it with things like cryptocurrency, which are all about hype and making a lot of money. I separate those two and I say it's the same underlying technology, but you can use it for a variety of things, just like you can the internet. This is an iteration of the internet. It's an iteration of record keeping. People say, okay, that's pretty basic. I can get behind that. Where are you applying it? And you start explaining supply chain and procurement, logistics, financial transactions. Then people see some value. They understand that it could improve transparency, remove some corruption or counterparty risk, essentially. And they say, well, that's good. We all want to be more transparent. We want less risk and we want to make more money. And then there's one more element. Blockchain is just software. Software is code. We know that code can automate things and make our life easier. So that's efficiency. Suddenly, crypto is not in the conversation anymore. You just think about how could I apply this to my workflow or my back office and start to speed up how I do business. We all know that saving time is saving money. And just like that, all the pieces come together. And blockchain in your business was a conversation we start having.
I really like that. It's interesting to think about it that way, and I could see how people would understand. Very cool. You mentioned some features, or rather people you serve in the valuation space, asset management. Wondering if you could explain building in the real estate ecosystem.
Yeah, really simply, we're helping real estate developers and asset managers organize, verify, and use their data. You can organize and structure your data and make sure that you're ready for appraisal, valuation, insurance, potential liquidity, or just aligning your stakeholders. There's real value there. You'll get your ducks in a row. But then once you have that data, you can apply it in many different places dashboards and analytics, artificial intelligence. On the AI topic, we all talk about that. People see value in that, but they forget that data is the precursor to really good AI. If you've used AI, you know there's like a million things you can do with it. So again, if you have your data, sky is the limit. You can automate all sorts of tasks and workflows. You can even start to deploy agents. Ultimately, you are replacing labor that might have cost you thousands of hours, whether that's third parties coming in and making sure that you've done something correctly or organizing your books, putting information together, giving you market reports. There's all sorts of things that if we help you gather and organize that data and put it to use, find some trends, you're going to be better off because of it. Some of the things that we highlight are the appraisal process. If you have all this data about your assets, the market, and a variety of other categories, you can appraise that asset more accurately, faster, and potentially more often. And this is where you start thinking about how you price your assets. If it's a little bit more like going public with your property, you want to raise capital. Of course, you can't list one property on the stock exchange, but you could do something similar with tokenization as long as you're pricing it. Investors like to see price changes reflected in their portfolio. the world is moving towards digital assets. They say everything will be tokenized, and I agree with that. So just helping you digitize first. Before we talk about tokenization, can we help you digitize? Have everything online. If it's in the real world, how does it get on the blockchain unless you've started to digitize things? There's other areas like sustainability, gathering energy usage and environmental impact, reporting that, making sure nothing's being greenwashed. Maybe carbon tracking data is very opportunistic and will help you use it how you want.
Yeah, you said a couple of things that really interested me. But I was wondering, because I don't think we got into it last time, how many are on the team at Building? And was it just you from the start?
It was. So my first startup, I had a co-founder. Second time around, I just recognized the amount of domain expertise I had and the amount of work I was putting in. So I became a solo founder. And I like it that way. I think a lot of companies end up dwindling down to one founder who is in charge. It's been resourceful, but I've surrounded myself with great people who are part-time, also bringing on some new folks, and then advisors. And it's really a well-crafted or well-rounded team all around, people that bring little bits of domain expertise from different areas, and it completes the puzzle. So we're talking real estate, construction, capital markets, investments, transactions, and working together to create building and ensure that we have all the experience we need for a full life cycle solution. It's very demanding. If it's just one part of real estate architecture, you just need a team of architects. But we expand across the full life cycle. When it's still dirt, all the way to the point that maybe it's being demolished or different things are being reused. So there's a lot of ground to cover.
100%. Do you have a prediction for when you think everything will be tokenized?
Well, not everything is even digitized in the first place, and we have had decades to get here. Now, it feels like most things are coming online in some capacity, but real estate proves that wrong, where you could be going through a deal and you would think there's software for something or that it would be really easy to get access to a file, but it's still in paper copy or it's lost, right? It doesn't even exist in the first place. So we need to digitize things, bring it online, set some standards, have some regulatory conversations, and then we will see tokenization at scale. One thing that I should note is that tokenization comes with a cost. So we have to make sure that we are justifying that cost. And this means that there's going to be more market evolution as we find use cases for the technology. You have to bring in competition to drive down the price. The same way that we could look at smartphones, maybe 15, 20 years ago, you've got the iPhone coming out. You've definitely had the BlackBerry, and people said, well, I think we could all communicate like this, but it was just really for business professionals. It was not quite the household item. Now kids have iPhones. So what you saw over time was there was more utility introduced. You can use your smartphone for anything. And it's at a price point that is generally comfortable for most people. It's going to be.
Sure. That's awesome. One more thing you said was working with developers. And I was wondering if you could just kind of touch on the life cycle of working with building from pre-construction throughout a development project.
Sure. So we can jump in at any point in a project and start to digitize things, organize it in a data room. It's the same thing in a virtual format. Instead of filing cabinets, we have organized your files, your documents by their type or project stage. Because we have these templates, whether the property has just been acquired and you're looking for what to fill in, or it's just getting started and we're giving you a checklist of what you're going to need over time, we can jump in. We want to digitize those documents if they're physical or just get them in. And then we give it a digital fingerprint. That's a really good use of the blockchain right there, just to say, this is an original copy. It's been attested. So you can say, our architect and our attorney reviewed this. We can identify exactly when they reviewed that. Any stakeholder or third party down the line, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years later, can look back and see This document has not changed. It's backed up with enterprise blockchain to prove that. And here is the authenticated individual who attested it, that said, yes, all of this information is accurate. So that's really valuable, not only to be organized, but to have that level of verification as well. And then we start to ask, what do you want your business case to be? What are you looking to accomplish? Are you trying to find liquidity for your equity in this asset? Are you looking for financing or refinancing? And you want to lower the spread by reducing risk or showing transparency and compliance? Some people just like it for operations. We can also build digital twins. If you have data, you can bring your data to life. It's much easier looking at a 3D model of your property than going through all the files. In terms of operations, maybe you're trying to track energy consumption throughout one property or 10 properties at once. And you can click around, you can scroll around and you see, this floor, even though it's not occupied, has been using a lot of electricity and it's running up our bill. Can we start to optimize this? So all sorts of creative things. It just takes a one-on-one conversation. What I think in the future we'll have is more templated use cases. Like you go on HubSpot, it's like, do you want this for sales, for marketing, for newsletters, or CRM? And then it sort of adjusts how it looks. So I think we'll get to that point where one click you can switch into just an operations mode or becoming finance ready, and it'll be kind of streamlined in that fashion.
Very cool. That's an awesome vision. I can envision it as well. For someone who may not know, what is a digital twin, just in simple terms?
It really is a digital replica or twin of your physical property. And so the way that we can go about this is in the very beginning, when properties are being designed, your architects, your engineers come together and either they've got some CAD files or they have a full BIM, building information modeling. And we can plug that in to our system and take those design plans and bring them to life and make them interactive. We can also connect them to devices on your property, sensors, servers, IoT, cameras, and start to monitor what's going on in your property. If you don't have that, we can bring a scanner out to your property, go on site, and with pinpoint accuracy, get most of the property. Some of it, we can't see behind walls all the time, but we can get pretty darn close, and it's better than nothing. But no matter what, it's taking the physical representation of your property, like it's there, it exists in the real world, and having a digital representation of that so that you can remotely monitor or look over your property. And for stakeholders, this is really useful. Let's say that instead of sending someone to the site to do measurements or look at gauges, there's a virtual version of that. And they have a raw data stream, so real-time information coming right from the property itself, whether that's pressure loads or the amount of energy being consumed. I keep falling back on that, but it's a really good one. Or just overall quality, health and performance of different components. You can do that in a virtual environment and keep tabs on it and then start to act on that. Maybe you say, let's schedule some maintenance. Let's get ahead of this. Let's be predictive with it so that we don't wait until the thing entirely fails. But doing that remotely instead of being on site. And what this enables is scale. To overlook dozens of properties in a virtual environment amongst all of your stakeholders, sharing that responsibility, it saves you time and money, right? You don't have to hire someone to go out and do all of that, especially if you utilize artificial intelligence, which could flag that there's issues across your properties. So it's just really great to have this virtual environment. In a lesser use case, some people use it for virtual tours. It's cool. You might see that on Zillow. We're trying to get a little bit more sophisticated than that, right? It's not just about looking at pictures of the property. It's about making actionable decisions or taking action. You can bring the property to life and show investors from overseas, here's how we designed it, here's how it's built, here's how it's being operated with all this real-time data. It builds confidence. That's a major component of it.
Has there been any kind of crazy stories from someone that they realized on their digital twin and had to, rush to the property?
No, not yet. There's not been any emergencies, at least in our case, as a result of a digital twin. Not to say I want that to happen, but I am eager to see it in use because as we build up compliance engines or something that's checking to see if there's an issue on site, it would be really great to see someone jump in to action because of something that our system indicated. But maybe that means something's going wrong. I don't necessarily wish it upon our clients, but it would be cool to see. If we are there to save the day, that's a great story.
Where do you see building headed in the next year or two as adoption picks up?
The key words or the one-liner that I use is that we're developing the digital standard or gold standard for real estate. To me, what this embodies is real estate is coming online. Some people are not going to do it as well as others. We want to be the shining example, the North Star of what it looks like to digitize real estate. That's what we want our clients to embody. And this should come with some sort of certification. It will bring a lot of confidence to investors, lenders, insurance companies, future buyers to see that there's been rigorous adherence to our frameworks, the documents that have been uploaded, who attested them, the recency. So, is this information being updated? Is everything viable? Because if it's out of date or corrupted or you got half files, then you still have problems, right? So we're trying to make sure that there's no air leaks in the system. And even down to the capital stack, the tokenized equity, tokenized debt, if that's on a property, the way that's being operated, are there AI tools being utilized, which means that there's some sort of workflow optimization. So if you were to purchase this, it comes with all the tools you need to run it, continuity of data, whatever it is. We just want people to look at these properties and say, I trust that more than the latter. Really good analogy is that it could be like a Carfax for properties. If you have a digital twin, it's almost like an MRI for properties. So saying, hey, we took our property through an MRI and now we have this comprehensive understanding of the ins and outs of this property. To me, all of this information, and we have seen it, PwC, Deloitte backed this up, that properties with comprehensive data avoid discounts because they make a very compelling argument or they demand fair market value. So you're not going to see any sort of negotiation or questionable or speculative inputs. It's very similar to how larger companies or even publicly traded companies are evaluated, where it's just set numbers and it's not a guessing game so much. And maybe you also pull market data and you have a valuation that is believed in or confirmed by both parties, both the seller and the buyer. So this reduces negotiation times, due diligence, and any costs that get baked into that, such as risk. So you're really improving that whole process. And then we want to go even further. And if something adheres to our digital standard, let's say it even has a rating, whether that's gold stars or AAA, that it should sell at a premium. Because again, risk is priced in. So if we remove a lot of the risk, because you've got the data and the tools, then we would hope that these properties are selling for more than their counterparts. And you'll start to see a bell curve of what the average property looks like. Hopefully more properties become better, but then there's always this new gold standard of what the best properties look like. And we're just helping to uplift real estate all around the world in that manner.
That's amazing. It seems like liquidity and transparency are just huge themes for you, as well as cutting risk down when you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is all about risk. It's why some people go to college and others become entrepreneurs, why some people speak up and others stay quiet. It's just what risks are you willing to take? And if we can strategically mitigate risk and not compromise other things, because you can mitigate risk, but maybe it costs a lot because you have to hire people. There's a lot of back office work. And then it's like, what are we really getting out of this? I'd rather sell. If we can strategically remove risk, whether that's environmental, structural, data, counterparty, to me, we're making the world a little bit of a better place. Risk is usually asymmetry. Someone could be worse off as a result. That's why we don't take risks. So you start to remove risk, you build trust between people, you make things work smoother. I think you make the world a little bit of a better place.
100% agree. Really like that. I'm really trying to grow this show with founders and have other prop tech people hopping on. So I wanted to ask a couple questions kind of geared towards that lens. One, if there's been a book or podcast, I know you have one of your own, that's changed the way you think about entrepreneurism.
That's an interesting question. My answer always changes. Back in the day, I used to tell people, think and grow rich. I think it's still applicable. It doesn't have any practical tips, like here's how to maximize your return on ad spend. But it's a good starting place. If you think of something that you want, you are going to put some sort of system in place to achieve it. It's non-negotiable. If you really want something, you're going to find a way to get it. I've got Spotify next to me. Let me see what I'm listening to recently. So, I mean, we've got the Founders Podcast. Guess I should have started there. That's a really good one. Talking about what all the founders of the past did to start their companies. You understand that they had this burning passion. They were willing to take risks. They always were thinking outside of the box. They created a character out of themselves where they become larger than life and they build up these strong networks and they get people to trust them. I think all of those elements are really good. I think it's important to look at people who weren't founders but still had monumental impact on the course of human history, generals or presidents. What did they do? And there's great themes. They tend to actually have a lot in common, a lot more in common, no matter where they are in the world. One of those things being agility. You have to pivot. You have to stay on your feet and always be looking for the next opportunity, stay lean and mean. Well, I should plug my own podcast, which is called Code and Concrete. Founders need to have main character syndrome, where you kind of think the world revolves around you a little bit, not to the point that you are blowing up your ego, but you have to recognize the amount of responsibility that's going to be on your shoulders. People are going to count on you. Investors are going to make a bet on you. Your product is going to become someone's lifeline, hopefully, if it's solving a major problem. So you do become the center of a major network. And you really need to believe in yourself. You have to recognize that you're on a journey, that you're on an adventure, and you're going to go out there and get it. That's a great podcast as well. Those are what I've listened to in the past few months.
Awesome.
Not a whole lot of reading.
Yeah, I'll have to check those out. I think the Founders Podcast does a really good job of explaining how it's not all sunshine and rainbows and, ups and downs. Curious if there has been anything that's been tougher than you anticipated. I know you've been an entrepreneur for a while, but here in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an arduous journey. There's been financial stress, interpersonal conflict, lots of anxiety and uncertainty, trying to navigate what is the right decision because it's not obvious. You can think something is and you get the bad outcome, or you make some mistakes and still get a good outcome. So you're really like, what the hell is going on? Trying to figure that out. But like you said, you just have to be persistent no matter what. And this is Alex Hormozy's big thing, which is that you just can't quit. Don't quit. Other people are going to quit if you just don't quit. Even if you have every reason to quit, if you don't quit, you'll probably inevitably find some sort of success in some way, shape, or form. And then once you get a little bit of momentum, you can build that up as long as you latch onto that, right? You got to take the bird in the hand when you get one. So yeah, that's my founder advice, but I've certainly gone through it. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, likewise. And don't end on a negative. So I wanted to see if there are any parting words or final thoughts just about building and the space in general.
Well, I'm a thoughtful person. I have a lot to say, but I just want to remind people that data is the new oil. So drill, baby, drill. I've been traveling all over. It's really fun. I've been doubling down on helping people in real estate extract their data the same way that you're going to drill for oil. Get that out of the earth, then refine and process it You refine your oil, you turn it into usable items. Same thing with data. Let's get it structured and cleaned, and then push it towards the right tools. From there, you can make little dinosaur figurines, right? Or petroleum or gasoline, whatever you want. But same thing with data. Start thinking of it as an asset. You're sitting on this asset. And this is why we have data rooms and digital twins, because it's this virtual digital asset that lives alongside the physical asset. And as soon as you recognize that and the value you can tap into, you're probably going to make a lot more money.
100%. Awesome, Matthew. And if the audience, people want to follow along, where can they find you?
Very active on LinkedIn, Matthew A. Schneider. You'll see my blue profile picture and big smiling face. Of course, our podcast as well, Code and Concrete. Bring on a lot of prop tech founders as well, but venture out into some other technologies too, just kind of covering the broad scheme, because everything's related. That's what I recognize. Like, you can be talking about tokenization and art in the next conversation, or robotics and construction and 3D printing. Yeah, those are the main places. Just find me, reach out. Happy to chat about anything.
Well, I'll make sure to leave some links in the description. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.